Norwood was the scene for the start of the third stage of the Santos Tour Down Under, bound for Paracombe, a new time finish of 143 kilometres in length. Jack Bobridge in the ochre jersey, Cadel Evans still a favourite, and Marcel Kittel still looking for a first win in a Tour Down Under.
Well, the riders facing a slightly neutralised section before they moved out of town, but it didn't take very long before the aggression started on this stage, even though everybody knew there was a very nasty sting in the tail with a first-time hilltop finish at Paracombe after 143 kilometres.
The finish had been the talking point for about a week, but the riders themselves weren't afraid of what was to come as they started to form attack after attack. The first few attacks didn't work, but then the peloton slowed down on a long climb into the Adelaide Hills, and it was Will Clark who got clear and was then joined by Axel Domon, Calvin Watson and Lasse Hansen.
As they made their way through the parched background of an area which was really destroyed by bushfires just over 2 weeks ago, the main field were making a very rapid pace and not allowing the four-man breakaway too much of an advantage. When they came to the first sprint point, when they came through Charleston, a clean set of wheels going to Will Clark in the red jersey of Drapac.
They were now on 3 circuits here. This was the 67-kilometre point. They would come through again at 93 kilometres. Will Clark had picked him up 3 seconds in bonus. They went through the Powerade hydration station, and that was the name of the day because the temperature now was soaring into the early 30s.
They rapidly went around the 3 laps, and even though it looked as if there was going to be a challenge this time coming from Hansen on the left in the green jersey of Cannondale, it was still Will Clark looking for another 3 seconds time bonus. That made a total of 6.
93 kilometres covered, and the gap was still hovering around 3 minutes advantage over the peloton. But then the first casualty, 38 kilometres to go to the finish. Axel Domon was left behind by the other 3.
Yes, but in the main field, as they started to line themselves up for Gorge Road and a very fast chase down towards the finish line, with the final sprint point out on the course, it was a question of who was going to get it. Well, there was no challenger call, and that was 3 victories in a row for Will Clark and a 9-second time bonus gain on the road.
119 kilometres covered. The riders were now set to leave the circuit, and Lasse Hansen was set to leave the leaders. 18 kilometres left. Hansen had reduced the lead to 2. 15 kilometres. Watson had fallen back. Only one rider was left out front, the man who had started it all, Will Clark. But he too was caught with 8 kilometres left to ride.
Some of the biggest teams in the world of professional cycling trying to line themselves up for the final climb of the day, and one of the first men around the corner, Cadel Evans, the man who wants to win this race, but locked right onto his wheel was Richie Porte, led over the first few parts of this climb by Geraint Thomas of Wales.
Under the kilometre to go, and Cadel Evans was still in the mix, but as if from nowhere, Evans' teammate Rowan Dennis came from the back, through on the inside, and while Richie Porte and everybody watched Cadel Evans, it was Evans' teammate Dennis who went for the top of the hill. He got the lead in the King of the Mountains and kept going, and as much as the others tried to get in touch with him, Rowan Dennis was hanging on. The South Australian Jack Bobridge was about to lose his ochre jersey, but the jersey would stay on a man from the same state as Rowan Dennis took the win. Evans got second place, and Tom Dumoulin crossed the line in third, with Max Bouet in fourth. An absolutely outstanding ride by the youngster on Team BMC. And as you can see here in the slow motion, plenty of time to celebrate. There was a measurable time gap as well, plus the 10-second win bonus. Rowan Dennis had done enough to lead the race, and everyone was delighted.
And bang, all of a sudden, Rowan Dennis comes out of the pack.
Yeah, I was caught a bit further back in the lead-in, and I just thought, okay, don't stress, just take little steps towards the front. And don't try to go into the red zone before you actually hit the hill. And then I saw obviously Cadel was away with 4 other guys, with Richie and Posivivo and Dumoulin. So I sat behind one of the Movistar riders and just crossed my fingers that he'd bring me back.
So all smiles for the 24-year-old from South Australia on Cadel Evans' team, because Team BMC now hold first and second in the overall classification. There were 3 jerseys, in fact, tonight for Rowan Dennis. He leads the race in the ochre jersey ahead of Cadell Evans. He's also the Cycle Instead Best Young Rider overall. He's also the Subaru King of the Mountains leader as well. That was a tremendous day out for the youngster from South Australia. Back on stage here to receive the Cycle Instead Best Young Rider white jersey. This will be worn by the second place rider in this competition tomorrow, as he'll be in the ochre jersey. And the team have another planned talk tonight to decide who's now the leader of Team BMC, Rowan Dennis or indeed Cadell Evans, as they're splitting the overall classification by 3 seconds.